Hello and welcome to the short Vort on Parshas Vayigash. I'd like to share two different thoughts on Perek Mem Vav Pasuk Lamed, chapter 46, verse 30. The first one is based on the Kli Yakar, Rav Shlomo Efraim Luntshitz, who passed away in 1619, and the other one is brought down by Rav Shimon Schwab, 1908 to 1995. And the pasuk there is talking about Yosef and Yaakov meet for the first time in 20 years, a very emotional moment. Yosef falls on the neck of his father and he cries. And Rashi there says that instead of falling on the neck and crying like Yosef did, Yaakov only, so he says Krias Shma at that point. We'll get back to that a little bit later. The Kli Yakar says that the response, as after he said Krias Shma, was Amusa hapam achrei rosias panecha ki odcha chai. Now I can die, says Yaakov, because I see that you're alive. That's Pasuk Lamed. The Kli Yakar says, what's going on here? What is Yaakov saying? Yaakov is saying that until now, I've been suffered very much for the past 20 years. I was in sackcloth. Every day was like I died anew. Life is not worth living. However, now that I see you, Yosef, and I see that you're alive and you're in good shape, then I'm happy again. Vatachi ruach Yaakov avihem, the spirit of Yaakov, their father, became alive. And then he said, Hapam, then he said, Amusa hapam, I'm going to die now only one time at the end of my life, not a daily death. That's what Yaakov is saying here. In an overlapping idea, but going in a different direction, Rav Schwab quotes his Rebbi, Rav Shlomo Breurer, 1850 to 1926, on this pasuk, and it says with this dramatic story that they reconnect. So it's only Yaakov, only Yosef who's crying and kissing, and at this emotional moment, as I said, Yaakov takes the time to say Krias Shma, and then afterwards he says Hapam, Amusa hapam, achrei Rosi es panecha kyodenachai. Now he says, I can die one time. So Rabbi Breurer gives a different twist on what's going on here. Why is Yaakov not being as emotional as his son has been? Why is this the time that he said Krias Shma? So for 22 years of sackcloth, 22 years of mourning, now they're together. But during the 22 years, Yaakov's life, as we said, was not worth living. Therefore, even though Yaakov kept Kol HaTorah Kula, the entire Torah before it was given, just like his fathers did, and one of those mitzvahs is V'ahavta es Hashem elkacha b'chol levav v'chol nafscha, that if you needed to, you'd be willing to give up your life to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. However, during those 22 years, Yaakov felt there wasn't much of a challenge there. I don't have a life. It's not worth living. He was in such pain. He was dying, as we said before, every single day. So what happened now that they got together and Yaakov saw that Yosef was alive and Yaakov became alive himself? Now he had something to celebrate. His life became supremely meaningful once again. So that's why Yaakov felt at that very moment, instead of kissing his son, it was time to say Krias Shma, to acknowledge the obligation to be willing, if needed, to give my life. But this time, Musa hapam, this time when I give you my life, I'm giving you a full and complete life. I have something valuable to offer. And that's why he had to give it at that moment. He had that peak that he reached emotionally. That was what Yaakov had to do. So thank you for listening. Have a wonderful week and a wonderful Shabbos.